All right, everyone. Get ready for a deep dive today into some really creepy stuff. It is. These are all like firsthand accounts from people who've had these freaky experiences. And we can't verify if they're all, actually true.
Right.
But they give us a really interesting look at like what people are afraid of and what kinds of things freak them out. There's this creepy doll story, people seeing figures lurking around at night, and even like a close call with a possible home intruder.
Oh my gosh, I'm already hooked.
It's going to be a wild ride, that's for sure.
It's fascinating how these stories, whether they're true or not, kind of tap into those fears we all have.
Yeah.
Like being afraid of what we don't know or feeling vulnerable, especially in our own homes.
Exactly, yeah. That unsettling feeling that something sinister is just out of sight.
Okay, so the first story is all about this haunted doll.
Ooh, haunted dolls. Always
Yeah.
creepy. I know, right? I've always been kind of fascinated by them. There's just something so eerie about something that's supposed to be just a toy,
Right.
An inanimate object suddenly like it has a life of its own.
Totally.
This particular doll in the story, it apparently moves on its own, makes these rasping, whispering sounds.
No way.
Yeah, and it gets even weirder. It supposedly even like got heavier after it moved. The person telling the story even saw it open its eyes.
Oh my God, that's so creepy. It really makes you think about how our minds try to explain things we don't understand.
That's so true.
Especially when we're dealing with something as primal as fear. Like, is it really something supernatural, or are we just, trying to make sense of things that freak us out?
That's a really good point. And get this, the person tried to get rid of the doll. They even threw it down the basement stairs.
Oh, no.
But it just kept showing back up.
What?
Yeah, they last saw it just sitting on the basement step, just staring up at them.
Chills.
So creepy, right? Have you ever had, like, an experience with an object that felt off?
Like it had a weird energy or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I think most of us have had those moments where something just feels wrong, like our intuition is telling us to watch out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really interesting how those feelings can get so much stronger
Yeah.
when we already feel vulnerable. Like, think about that next story about the person being watched through their bedroom window.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of feeling vulnerable, that one's next. And it starts with a single knock on the window,
Oh, God.
then another and another. Can you imagine trying to fall asleep?
No way.
Hearing that, knowing someone is out there in the dark watching you.
Oh, that's terrifying.
It's like straight out of a horror movie.
It's the worst. And what really gets you is how the tension builds so slowly.
Right.
First it's just one knock, then more and more. That creeping feeling that something awful's going to happen.
It's so unsettling.
And in the story, their neighbor actually saw 3 people lurking around the property. So it wasn't just their imagination. It was a real threat.
And the creepiest part, they were never caught. That thought of someone invading your space like that and getting away with it.
It would totally mess you up.
Definitely. Okay, let's switch gears for a sec. The next story is about a creepy neighbor, and let me tell you, this one's a doozy. It starts with a 12-year-old boy who makes friends with this older teenager named Tom.
Okay.
At first, it seems harmless.
Right.
But then Tom starts becoming obsessed.
Oh, no.
He's calling constantly, showing up at the kid's house uninvited, and even sending, like, threatening emails.
That's so scary. It's like a reminder that sometimes things that seem normal can turn dangerous really quickly.
You're so right. And it gets even creepier. The narrator actually sees Tom's dad watching him from the bushes.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, like, it goes way beyond just awkward teenage behavior, It
Right.
feels like a real threat, like the whole family is involved.
Yeah, totally.
Thankfully, they ended up getting a restraining order and they moved away. But I bet that experience stuck with them.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Which kind of brings us to the story of the stolen laptop and the suspicious neighbors. This one feels like it could happen to anyone.
right. You start with a missing laptop, and immediately the narrator is suspicious of these weird neighbors. They were described as acting erratically and intimidating, even asking the narrator for drugs.
Oh, wow.
Then, the narrator finds footprints in the snow leading straight to their door. And get this. Someone inside lifts the curtain and makes eye contact with the narrator.
That is so creepy. It's like suddenly your suspicions are confirmed.
It's like it goes from a maybe to a definitely. And the worst part,
What?
the police couldn't do anything because of some jurisdictional issue. Can you imagine that?
That's the worst.
Knowing who took your stuff but not being able to do anything about it.
It would be infuriating.
And of course, it doesn't end there. That night, someone tries to break into the narrator's room.
No way.
It's that feeling of violation, like your home isn't safe. Thankfully, they had locked their bedroom door.
Oh, thank goodness.
But just imagine someone trying to get in while you're there.
I wouldn't be able to sleep for weeks.
Me neither. It's terrifying. Has something like that ever happened to you? Where you suddenly felt like your home wasn't safe?
Yeah, it really makes you think,
Yeah.
about how we, take for granted that feeling of safety in our homes.
Exactly. It's supposed to be like our sanctuary, right?
Hmm.
The one place where we can truly relax and feel safe.
Right, yeah, exactly. But then these stories show us that even that feeling can be shattered.
Okay, I'm trying to shake off that last story, so let's move on to the next one. This one happens at a birthday party. It's called The Party Crasher. And it's about this weird older man who's just sitting there at the party watching everyone.
Oh, God, that's creepy. You know that feeling when you can sense someone staring at you? Like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up?
Totally. It's like he's intruding on a space that's supposed to be happy and fun, makes everyone uncomfortable.
Right, totally. It just throws everything off.
The narrator is relieved when the guy finally disappears. But later that night, they wake up and the closet door is open.
Oh, no. Like in a horror movie.
I know, right? It's like a classic horror trope, right?
Totally. And it just plays on that fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah. What could be hiding in the dark? So scary.
Makes your heart race just thinking about it.
I know. The narrator ends up making a heart-pounding escape. Thank goodness they had friends there to help.
Right. At least there's safety in numbers, I guess.
Yeah, it just shows that even in familiar places, when you're with people you trust, things can still get really weird.
Yeah, it's that unpredictability. That's what makes these stories so fascinating,
Totally. Like, we as humans, we like order and control. And when that gets disrupted, it triggers that fear response in us.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of fear response, that next story, the gas station scam, it takes place in a parking lot late at night. Have you ever been in a situation like that, like alone in a public space, and you just get this bad feeling like something's not right?
Oh, yeah. It's like that intuition kicks in.
Right. And that feeling is usually your body trying to warn you about danger.
Yeah, it's like a built-in survival mechanism. So in this story, this person is approached by this woman and her daughter, and they say they're out of gas and need money.
Uh-oh.
But something about the daughter's behavior and how the woman was acting just felt off to the narrator. It set off alarm bells. What do you think are some red flags to watch out for in a situation like that?
Well, I mean, it's late at night.
Yeah.
They're alone. The story doesn't quite add up. And the daughter's acting really weird. It's just a lot of little things that together scream danger,
Right. It's about trusting your gut feeling and just getting out of there if something feels wrong.
Exactly, yeah.
Thankfully, the narrator in the story got back to the store safely. But it makes you think, what if they hadn't?
Hey, what if they'd ignored those red flags?
Exactly. So, okay, next story. The office intruder. This one will resonate with anyone who's ever worked late in an empty office building.
Oh, yeah. Empty offices at night are super creepy.
Right.
It's like a completely different place than during the day.
Yeah.
All quiet and shadowy.
Totally. So the story starts with these small noises.
Okay?
Like a crack. Then the sound of a computer starting up.
Uh-oh.
The narrator just thinks it's the building settling, But then they discover a man hiding in the corner wearing all black.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah. It's like those classic horror movie moments,
Build up, yeah.
where you think it's nothing, but then...
It turns out to be something terrifying.
And then it turns into a chase. The narrator has to run down the stairs and the guy's chasing after them.
Oh my God, that's so scary. It's like your worst nightmare come true.
I know. And guess what? They never caught the guy.
No way. Like the cops searched the building and he just vanished.
Vanished. It's like he disappeared into thin air. It just leaves you hanging, Was it a prank? Was it something more sinister? You just don't know.
Yeah, the not knowing is almost worse.
Totally. Okay, the next one is the patio lurker. It's a short one, but creepy. It's about this person who finds a strange man just sitting on their patio in the middle of the night. Can you imagine waking up and seeing that? Your back door is wide open and there's some creepy dude just sitting there staring at you.
Ugh, that is my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Like your home is supposed to be your safe space.
I know, right? Totally violates that sense of security. So the narrator confronts the guy and he actually lunges at them.
Oh my
They
God.
barely manage to slam the door shut and lock it.
That was a close one.
I know. It's a reminder to be careful. Even in your own backyard, you never know what's lurking out there. Okay, brace yourself, because this next story is one of the most disturbing in the whole video.
Okay, hit me with it.
It's called Down Beneath the Bed, and it involved someone's phone getting hacked.
What?
Yeah. Their phone was going off with these alarms set to go off at weird times, and the alarm labels were really creepy, like down, beneath the, and bed.
Oh God. Like using technology to scare someone is just, it's next level creepy.
I know, right? It's so messed up. And at first the narrator thinks it's a prank.
Right, who wouldn't?
But as those alarm labels start to come together to form a sentence, they realize something horrible. Someone's under their bed.
Stop. That is terrifying. Like that slow realization that something is horribly wrong. Ugh.
And then the intruder actually grabs them. Luckily, the narrator's father heard what was happening and came in. But get this. The intruder was a registered sex offender who had been hiding in their house for days.
Oh my God, that is so messed up. It just shows that you can never be too careful, you know?
It's a reminder that evil can be lurking anywhere, and we have to trust our gut instincts and protect ourselves. Okay, on to the last story. Don't point a gun at my back.
Okay, this is the last one.
Yeah. This one's about a person who starts getting these really unsettling FaceTime calls from their friend, Ty. And in the calls, Ty looks more and more distressed each time, and he's asking for money.
Oh no. What's going on?
It's unclear at first, but it's obvious Ty is in some kind of dangerous situation.
Right, yeah.
And he keeps saying this phrase, don't point a gun at my back.
Ugh. That is so chilling. It's like you can feel the tension through the phone.
Exactly. Like something bad is happening, but you don't know exactly what.
And the fact that it's happening over FaceTime, it's like
Yeah.
you're right there watching it unfold.
Totally. So the narrator has to think fast. They call the police and give them an address that Ty mentioned during one of the calls.
Oh, good.
And thank goodness they did. It turns out Ty was being held captive. He'd been beaten and was barely alive when the police arrived.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
Yeah.
But also amazing that they were able to save him.
It really shows the power of thinking on your feet and taking action.
Totally. The narrator's quick thinking probably saved their friend's life.
Yeah.
But can you imagine what would have happened if they hadn't remembered the address?
Ugh, it doesn't bear thinking about. It just shows how important it is to pay attention to those little details and to act when you know something's wrong.
It's such a powerful reminder that sometimes we have more control than we think, even in scary situations.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I am definitely feeling a little creeped out after all those stories.
Yeah, it makes you realize how much we just sort of assume we're safe, you know?
Right. We kind of have to just function day to day, I guess.
Totally. If we were constantly thinking about all the bad things that could happen.
Right. We'd never leave the house.
Yeah.
But it's so interesting to me how these stories, even if they're not totally true,
Yeah.
they still tap into these fears that everyone has. Why do you think that is? Why are we drawn to these creepy stories?
That's a good question. I think maybe part of it is like the excitement of the unknown.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little adrenaline rush. you know?
Yeah. Right. Like a safe way to experience fear.
Yeah, maybe it's a way of facing those fears without actually being in danger.
Like watching a horror movie.
Exactly.
Yep.
But I also think these real life accounts, even if they're exaggerated,
Yeah.
they just feel more real than something made up, you know?
No, totally. You start to think, could this happen to me?
Exactly. That's what makes them so effective. It blurs the lines. You start to question your own safety.
Like that story with the doll. It's such a classic creepy story, right?
Uh-huh.
But it still works. It still taps into that deep-seated fear.
Well, yeah. It's like we can't help but see human qualities in things, even when they're not human.
Yeah.
And when those things start behaving strangely,
It freaks us out.
big time.
Yeah.
And those stories about scary neighbors and home invasions, those are really scary.
Because it feels like it could happen to anyone.
Exactly. It messes with that feeling of security we have in our homes.
The one place where we should feel totally safe.
And it makes you think about, those anxieties we have about, I don't know, being alone or...
Yeah. Or feeling isolated.
Exactly.
Right.
We rely on our neighbors, our community for safety. And when something disrupts that,
It just feels wrong. Like when you're walking alone at night and you feel like someone's following you.
oh my God, yes, that feeling.
It's the worst. We're not always in control,
And that lack of control is what makes these stories so fascinating and creepy.
So what can we do about that fear?
I think it's all about finding a balance.
Okay.
Being aware that bad things can happen, of course,
Right.
but also not letting that fear stop us from living our lives.
Yeah, that makes sense. Being careful but not letting fear take over.
Exactly.
Well, I think we've all had enough creepy stories for one day.
I agree.
But before we go, I want to leave everyone with this thought. What if we embraced our fears a little?
Oh, that's interesting.
Instead of pretending they don't exist, what if we saw them as a way to grow?
Yeah, like as a reminder that we're human.
Right. And that life is precious.
Wow, that's really powerful. I like that.
It's kind of a different way to think about things, huh?
Totally.
Well, thanks for coming on this deep dive with me today. And remember, everyone,
Yeah.
sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we make up in our heads. So be kind to yourselves, be aware of your surroundings, and always remember, never underestimate the power of a good story.